It's such a nice day outside. I wanted to try to do it outside, but kind of hard to get the acoustics right.
Yeah, some kind of truck would fly through or something like that. Certainly, the first second you're outside.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's give it. I've still got a minute left on my watch at least, so let's give it one more minute and we'll start her up. But thanks everybody for who is here joining, and like I said, we do have a couple more.
Recording in progress.
Oh, and we have started the record. So if anybody misses something or in general wants to share it with others, we will have it on YouTube later to be able to get the full conversation going. So let's just. All right. Well, I'm a minute past, so I say we go ahead and get her started, and some more people can log in when they get a second. But welcome everybody. I am Adam Gouch. I am the marketing catalyst at the ATDC. And if you don't know the ATDC, we're the state of Georgia's startup incubator. We help companies who are looking to grow and scale technology companies, and we've been doing that since 1980. If you want any more information about that, feel free to go to atdc.org or to email me at adam.gouch@atdc.org. But today, we came here to talk specifically about influencer marketing and how even if you're, as most of our companies at the ATDC are kind of in the B2B space, there's still a lot of possibilities with influencer marketing, and you just need to think of it smartly and make some simple steps that hopefully Dan can go through and kind of get us through that process. So Dan came to my life through another company here in the Atlanta area. And I think Tanner might be on the call. Hey, Tanner. He is starting a startup technology company himself, and Dan has helped them kind of find a market and grow their business quickly. And once they discovered that this influencer marketing campaign was working well for them, it allowed Tanner and his company to kind of figure out some things and move and grow. And it also allowed Dan to start saying, this is something I can help other people with. And so that's why he is here. He is here to help other technology companies kind of understand how to work and start the influencer marketing campaign. So without any further ado, Dan Staub.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Adam, thanks again for having me. For those of you who haven't met yet, my name's Dan Staub. I'm the founder at Juniper Growth, where we help software and e-commerce companies with their creator marketing strategies. Really excited to be here today. I went to Georgia Tech, so I know ATDC very well and a lot of the companies that have come out of it. And I think there's a lot that we're going to be able to talk about today. So I would like this to be as open of a conversation as possible. So if you hear something that you are interested in or want to hear more about, please just pipe in and clarify a question for us, and we can dive right in, because I have a lot of things I like to talk about, and there's a lot of things in this space, but really want to hear what questions you have so that I can teach more about it and get you up to date. So really, I could talk about a lot of different things, but there's three key things that I want everyone to have a takeaway from this call when you're thinking about creator marketing and how to interact with creators. And the first one is going to be treat creators like they're your best customer. Not just like they're your any customer, like they're your best customer. The second one is going to be to systematically outreach to creators. So these aren't just one-off emails. You need to create a system around it to make sure that they are consistently in touch with you. And then the third one is make sure you have strong retargeting efforts in place so that once someone first sees your product or first sees your service, only about 1% of the time they're actually going to convert. So what are you doing to retarget them and follow up on those initial posts? So really before we get started into it, I think it's important for business to think, are you ready for creator marketing? There's a lot of different channels that you can use, and there's some important keys that you need to have in place in order to make sure that your business is ready to go down this channel. And the first one is pretty obvious, but sometimes people forget it, is you need to have a product to sell. The product needs to be ready to go. You need to have something that when someone sees a video, sees a creator interact with it, they can then immediately go to your page and click that add to cart button and go ahead and purchase it. So while it is a top of funnel strategy, you really do want to be able to help people go and make that buying decision as soon as possible. It's also going to make it a lot easier when you're working with a creator to describe your product or service. If you have an idea, if it's just an additional feature that you might be adding, it's a lot harder to sell that as opposed to an actual product or service that is that's ready to ship. Getting a little bit of feedback from you there, Rosia. Thank you. So that's an important thing to have in place. And then also another thing that might be obvious, but people forget about, is really having a strong idea of who your customer is. I'm sure we have a lot of marketers in this call, and that's always a constant challenge, right? Who exactly is the customer, and really having a tight idea on that. And that's going to really help you go out and figure out who the creators are that you need to work with and what are going to be the best niches for you to attack. So kind of just before we get started, any questions on that, on whether or not your business is ready to do influencer marketing? Are there any companies here or ideas here that are in place and you're kind of trying to figure out if you're at that point and ready to go on with it?
Dan, there's one thing that I would ask you about, which is if you don't think your product is ready for influencer marketing, is there anything else you think do you think it's worth doing something for, say, customer discovery, like trying to reach out and getting people to bring feedback, or if you're doing some other pieces of content marketing, so around like you're starting a podcast or a video channel of your own for building out your brand or anything like that? Have you seen, or do you think there's possible successes in any of that? Or is it like, if you don't really have that thing that is the buy button right now, then it's really not worth your time and investment into it?
Yeah, so I think, the most effective campaigns are ones where you create a strong relationship with creators. And so it's never too early to do that. So small things like following them with your brand's social page, following them and then messaging them and saying, hey, love your content, engaging with their content in some way, and making sure that they're known to who you are is something that really anyone can start doing. So just like any other prospect that a company might be going after, you do want to kind of slowly go into it and really start to familiarize them with your brand and the service that you provide. So that'd be one way I think that you can kind of start to go in, and there's no cost associated with that, and you're still trying to start to get some of that initial feedback ready to go.
So treating being a fan of the people that are in your space or could be potential marketers for you in the future is maybe the first best step. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it, and that does really go into this first topic of treating creators like they're your best customer. And a lot of times, sometimes your best customers are going to be creators for you. So there's strategies that you can do when you're on customer discovery calls, talking with them and understanding if this would be something that they're interested in posting as well. I'm sure a lot of us have heard user-generated content, and that's more on the organic social side of things. But really empowering your customers to be creators on your behalf can be a great way to get content and also start to build that community of other people that are using your product. So it's really just something to keep in mind kind of as we talk about what these engagements look like, and really not to treat creators just as you would a Facebook ad or another one-off marketing channel that you would do. You really want to build a great relationship with them, because then they're going to create content that's just a little bit better, that's going to help make conversions a little bit better for you, and also make it so that they want to work with you in the future. If you're a jerk to work with, but they've done great results for you, then they're going to do two things. They're going to charge you a lot more the second time they do a video with you, or they're not going to work with you at all. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and kind of treat them as a strong customer along the way.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this earlier, Lauren, who's on the call as well, shared a video of somebody who is does fingernail design and paint and all this kind of stuff, and has a huge audience. And she was just reading some solicitation emails that she was getting from people, and they were so generic and so dismissive of what this person does and the audience and brand that she built, that she was like, these are people we'll never work with. And I thought that was a really enlightening piece of video, because I think you think, I'm giving these people money, I'm they work for me or whatever. That's not they have the power here. They're making these choices. They're making choices they're going to help them and help them in the long run. You need to be able to customize your messaging to those people and make that something that is valuable to them, for sure. Or they're just going to not only maybe delete your email, but they might also make fun of you on a podcast for a while. So you don't want either of those things to happen. And you think it takes like a lot of different like emails or touches with them to even get responses, right?
Yeah, so that's a great lead into the next one, which is systematic outreach. Maybe some of you have tried reaching out to a creator before, right? And maybe it's kind of small attempt, just a little DM, hey, would love for you to promote my product, or maybe just like a simple email that goes out. And the thing that I think a lot of brands kind of stumble on is not enough touch points and not enough creators when you're originally reaching out to them. So instead of doing, one email to 30 different people, it's great to do, 3 to 5 emails to 100 different creators, and really cast that wide net. So that's something that is really important to do. And also, like you said, having that unique messaging. You just like you would send out any other message to your users, to your customers, you want to have the exact same approach when you're reaching out to creators. So everything from having an email headline that's going to have them open it, really describing your value proposition very clearly in a short, succinct manner. Don't write them a paragraph. No one wants to read a paragraph. Have just 2 to 3 sentences that's going to have someone be interested in your brand, and hopefully they already recognize your brand, so they're going to be a little bit more inclined to engage with you. And then, create that email cadence and outreach cadence that you would with any other client. So, any other potential users. So, the first one's introducing the brand, saying what you guys would be interested in doing. A lot of companies will stop right there. So you're going to already differentiate yourself by doing a second or a third follow-up and providing more details on what your company does. Still don't want to go into adding more content, more context on what you do. Keep it short, keep it simple. And because all you want to do is eventually get on the phone with them. That's another thing is you can make deals through email. You can introduce them to your brand, make agreements on pricing, all those great things. But by getting them on a call, you're going to learn so much that you would be missing out from on a traditional email. So things like on the call, you're going to be able to really put the energy that you have in the company into the creator. And especially if they're doing video content, that's going to turn out. I've seen this firsthand, with creators that I worked with only doing email, and the ones that we actually do have a full call with and understand a little bit more. You can hear what past brands they've worked with, what's important to them, what their pricing is a little bit more, and kind of understand that conversation. So it's also part of the systemization of it is that, you don't want to make it so that every time someone responds and says, yes, I'm interested, you have to go in and send them a Calendly link. Put the systems in place so that they're automatically sent out, and you're able to get that call set up. So I think that's a really important step here. And it's where a lot of people fall flat is, oh, I tried influencer marketing, but no one responded to me. I sent it out to 30 or so, but I think their following was too big, and so they're not interested. That's why it's really important to give yourself a chance here and reach out to a lot of different creators and do multiple touch points. Does that make sense? Does anyone resonate to that on the call here? I know there's some brands that have found a difference in maybe just doing a 1 or 2 DM or email.
Hey, Dan, can you hear me? This is Chase.
Hey, Chase.
Yeah, so we had a recent experience with this. It was definitely super difficult getting people to respond. And ultimately, what we ended up realizing was that we may not actually have the bandwidth to run like a full campaign. So we ended up working with an agency, and the response rate went like through the roof, basically much better than we got. And I think my hypothesis with that was basically that when you go through an agency or a third party, it kind of automatically legitimizes your brand a little bit more, so that even if someone's never heard of you, at least the creator is seeing that, okay, they're at least legit enough to have gone through a third party, or this third party is willing to work with them, therefore they must be legit, that type of thing. So that was kind of our experience. I just want to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, thanks, Chase. And I know Chase and I actually talked about this about a month or so ago, and Chase is at Dr. Knows Best, and he's doing everything across the company. He's fulfilling orders. He's doing a lot on the operations side. And so, sprinkling in something like this can take up a lot of time. And I think he realized the effect of that. So thanks for adding that. And I know that there's other people that are kind of having challenges with it. And on your point on the agency, I totally agree. I think that some people think, oh, well, if it's a brand that reaches out, then they're going to say, oh, this is someone that works in the right connection. Unless you're a large brand, unless you're one that is going to really excite the creator, which a lot of us are startups and are still just growing out. It's good to have that agency third party in between, because then they know that you're going to be able to, they're going to trust that an agency is going to be able to kind of have both of their best interests in mind and be able to be a strong communicator between the two. So Lauren, thanks for dropping that in the chat right there. This is a video that I saw too. It's honestly pretty funny, just the random things that people will send a YouTuber just about random things. So if you guys get a chance, I would definitely watch that video, and you'll get insight into a little bit of the world that creators have, and also understand how you're going to be able to differentiate yourself. People are basically getting spammed. If you create a tight message that's really providing value to them, it's going to go a lot farther.
Yeah, and I think that what you said earlier, Dan, about this is work. This, like, influencer marketing might be an easy way to get around this. The rest of the stuff that needs to be done, it's not. It's another thing that's going to be more work. And so when you're getting into it, make that understanding as part of it. If you're doing it yourself, if you can't afford or don't do or want to learn yourself ahead of time before you reach out to somebody to help run a campaign for you, understand that this is like another sales funnel, you've got a sales process you've got to run, and this is hundreds of outreaches and responses and all this kind of stuff, and you might not have the bandwidth to do it yourself, and it might make more sense to use someone like Dan or whoever Chase is using or whatever. But also just understand that this is not a free lunch or easy peasy lemon squeezy situation. You're going to be doing work to do influencer marketing.
Yeah. So one small activity for anyone who actually wants to get their hands dirty on this for a little bit, you can spend an hour tonight doing it, or later this week, or whenever you want, is create an empty Instagram account, a brand new Instagram account, and start following some of the influencers that you think are in your space and would be connecting with your customers and have an audience that your customers are paying the most attention to. The reason I want you to do a brand new one is because a brand new Instagram account is like a brand new baby. It's in the world. It doesn't know anything different except for what you provide the algorithm. So let's say, we'll just use Chase as an example. He's targeting young new moms. So if you go on there and start to follow other new mom accounts, then you go to accounts that the recommended accounts, the algorithm will start bringing up more influencers for you to be able to see and start to connect with. So you can go in there and then start to pull their details, grab some email addresses from it. And I promise you, after an hour, you'll have gotten very far in determining a lot more about what your space is. And you're going to learn a lot about your customers a lot more and understand, okay, this is something that they're interested in. This is what good content looks like. This is someone who has a camera and is really actively pushing this as a career versus someone who, yeah, has a great audience, but maybe it's just their side account and, they're not putting as much time into it. So just one suggested thing for you guys to go out and start doing and really kind of get your hands dirty in this influencer marketplace a little bit more. Any other questions on systematic outreach or things like that, or maybe any other challenges that people have had before I kind of start talking about retargeting?
What do you think is like, Skylar here, sorry. What do you think is like the ideal follower range that you'd want to be outreaching to for these kind of like medium to larger size campaigns?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 followers, mainly just because the value is going to be there. You're not someone who has millions of followers and is going to charge you an exorbitant amount, has probably an agency that protects them, like a talent agency that protects them. And also you're gonna be able to spread out your budget a lot more. Because one of the things you want to do is be able to test multiple different creators to figure out which ones you want to follow up with again. So, I think it's better to work with 5 creators that have 25,000 followers each than 1 creator that has 125,000 followers. And it's also really important to be hitting different user personas within your customer demographic. So you might want, you want to make sure you're spreading across all the different user personas, all the different people that might want to engage. So whether that's people across the world or people that come from different backgrounds and are interested in different things, but still would be interested in doing your product, buying your product.
Yeah, this is Zeba. I had a tip that we found out recently to like just find a lot of influencers. So I mean, initially we were struggling. I mean, I'm in the home decor, specifically plant decor market. And initially we were having a lot of trouble with we were trying to start an influencer campaign and not getting much traction. And it was very tedious to like find all these, get a funnel, a top funnel of, who to target. But what we found was there are these, accounts that actually just sort of repost content from like, other people who have really good content. So we basically went out and found, like Houseplant Club, for example, is one that's big. And then, basically you just pulled out all the people that they are following. And that was a really good starting point. And then, we went and narrowed down from there. So, I mean, that was a insight that we came across. So maybe that might be useful for others.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, how long did it take you to find those accounts? Like how long were you in your campaign until you found that account?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were just starting out. So I think like we had 3 weeks of, futile effort of not finding, not hearing back from people and not, sort of not getting any traction. But once we found that big account and had got a follower list. And once we started our running campaigns through those accounts, I mean, we've been doing really well. So I think that has been sort of a very, we have like a funnel of all these micro influencers. So, somewhere between 5,000 to 50,000 followers. But yeah, they have been, it has worked for us for now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, one of the kind of those discovery sessions that I was talking about, when you spend an hour going through a new Instagram account, a lot of times those accounts will pop up. You'll think to yourself, oh, I'm in the sports space. I know a lot of different sports accounts. But if you're not really keeping a keen eye to it, then sometimes it takes a little bit longer for those things to pop up. So there's a lot of meme pages are similar to this that you can be able to leverage, and they've already done a lot of you. So that's a really important thing as well.
I just had another kind of content or piece to add along with Zeba's point. So one thing that we found that was interesting on our recent influencer campaign is we ended up paying about 15 influencers to post for us, and I think we're about 2/3 of the through the posting right now. And just from those folks posting, we've been reached out to by probably with the type of content I'm creating. It resonates with my audience. And so they've been either emailing or direct messaging us through Instagram, kind of saying like, hey, this is who I am. I'd love to work with you. So I think kind of once you start a campaign, that's another way where you can potentially more easily find influencers and engage with other creators is just kind of through that passive mode of letting them contact you once you kind of get your stuff out there.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Chase. And the thing I like about that too is then you know who the more serious influencers are, who the more serious creators are, the people that are really taking their content more seriously. Because sometimes, like I said, you look through an account and it's a little bit harder to see how interested they are. So yeah, that's an awesome lead. So that's a great couple tips from the audience here. I really appreciate you guys adding that in. People who have experience with the creator game and knowing some of the hardships that it can bring and how you have to talk about was how to retarget your customers after they've seen a creator's post. Like I said, I've seen typically about 0.5% to 1% of people are actually going to buy after seeing that post, probably even less than that. And so it's really important to capture their attention in different ways. So just making sure that you have a retargeting, there's really 3 main ways to look at it. I see, social ad retargeting, email retargeting, or even possibly a challenge or a hashtag that you want your users to jump into. Those are in order of difficulty. So, a lot of us have experience launching paid ads. And so it's really important that you have a good idea of which platform your users are engaging on. So, whether that's Pinterest, which I'm a big fan of recently. I think there's a lot of free ad space on Pinterest that people can be taking advantage of, or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it may be. Just making sure that you have some retargeting set up so that they're also going to be, follow up your brand and learn more about it. So, just like you would with any other top of funnel approach, right? Just like if you're going to put a billboard up, you're going to want to make it so that you're keeping the attention of a customer once they come to your website. So whether that's an email opt-in or trying to create a hashtag that you actually want people to work on, I think that's going to be a really great way to get the most out of the creators that you work with and make it so that these campaigns have a lasting effect. So has anyone done retargeting here? I know we have, like I said, a lot of different people in the marketing space. Any other tips on best ways to follow up with someone, whether it may be email or social ads or even doing a hashtag? It's a little bit more of the digital marketing kind of gear side of marketing, but I think it's something that you make sure to have. And it's important because even if you have someone who, let's say you're working with a TikTok influencer, if they're on TikTok, then that means that they already are engaged in social media platforms. And that's really one of the important things about it. So whether you want to retarget them using TikTok ads or Facebook ads or Instagram ads, you really want a customer where they are and continue to kind of engage with them that way.
Dan, can you give a little bit more detail or an example of the hashtag retargeting that you're talking about? I'm sure some people are not as familiar with that.
Yeah, so a lot of this is just going to be kind of having an offering around a hashtag. So, you as a company, you come up with a hashtag that you want people to work with. And what you're really doing here is using a creator to help act as a catalyst for that hashtag or that challenge. So, if you go and how do you market a challenge? How do you market a way that people can use hashtags? If someone just sees it, they're not just going to go out and just kind of do it on their own. It's really helpful to see that, oh, other people are doing this. Okay, this is actually starting to get some pretty solid lift. So that would be kind of an example of doing that, and that you have one that's tightly knit and something that as a company, as a brand, you're committed to focusing on and keeping people interested. So then it's, okay, I saw this creator do this, talk about this hashtag, talk about this offering that this brand is working with. Now I'll engage with it, and then then they can follow your social pages and all that, and keep up with the company a little bit more.
And how about Pinterest? I don't.
So I'd like to open up the floor now to any other questions. I know there's a lot of questions when it comes to influencer marketing, how to reach out to people, pricing that's involved, best platforms that you can use, or also any other tips that people have. Really appreciate y'all adding in some tips as well. Just wanted to open up the floor to more of an open discussion on it.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? This is Tanner. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about, creating a systemized approach once you're ready to kind of start rolling with influencer marketing. But I want to encourage everybody who's new to this as well, that you can also just kind of start with sending 10 emails. And maybe you won't even get a conversion, but kind of go out to the market and you can try it yourself. Before I started working with you, I sent 100 emails to 100 different influencers, and I got a 4% response rate. And that's terrible. That's awful. But it was 4 people that I got to have a conversation with. So I think you can do it yourself. So don't let the fear of low response rates prevent you from at least trying. And also these people do know a lot about your target customer, so they can be great conversations to have.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's like the expectation as well, right? So you might get a low response rate to both the influencer marketing, and don't expect that those people are also going to drive $100 million in sales as well. Dan, you had some stat of less than 1% of people that get sent to us a campaign through an influencer marketing campaign are going to be the first time buys, right? I mean, it's going to take. That's where the retargeting comes in and all that other stuff too. So they understand and have an expectation around all of that stuff, that it's not going to be just what are we going to do with all these new sales? It's going to be a slow drip for all that stuff.
So Dan, this is Bill Hogan. I haven't met you, I don't believe, but I'm an ATDC staff member. So
hey,
I'm very new to this. That's why I wanted to sit in on this thing. But generally, is it necessary for the influencer to actually be a believer in the product? Or are there the influencer's audience, do they expect that person to be a real believer? Or, how does that work? Do they really have to buy into this product in order to be an effective influencer or not?
So the most effective campaigns are going to be people who actually already are your customer, and because they're going to know how to market it, they're going to know how to sell it the best. And so I would say that those are the most effective ones. And it really is on you to talk to them and educate them on your product, because a lot of, for smaller companies too, they don't know about you. So that is why I think the call is really important, to talk with them about it and talk to them about the service. I worked with a company here in Atlanta called Good Boy, and they do dog supplements. And that was a really interesting niche to drive into, because these people really care about their dogs. They really wanted to make sure it was a good product, and they wanted to make sure that it had all of the nutrients and things in it that were important to them. And there were some people that said, no thanks. We would rather not work with a brand like this. We have our dog on a certain regimen. So you do want to work with people that are authentic, but you do want to find that balance of kind of educating them on it. And if they're not educated on it, they don't know the service well, then you're going to probably get pretty average content that isn't really going to hit, because that's really the focus here, right? Is being able to create good content that's going to be able to actually engage the audience, not just content that kind of has more of a short approach to it. So short answer to your question, Bill, is yes, they do need to be a believer in your product. If they're not, you're not getting a good vibe from it, you feel like they're just, you know, going to take your money and run, then, which does happen, you need to have a good idea. They need to have a good idea of the service itself.
Okay, and just one follow-on question. That makes a lot of sense. So who creates the content? Is the influencer kind of creating the content that talks about the product, or is that something that the company does and kind of gives them a script?
That's a great question. I am a big believer in letting the creator create. They have spent all this time creating videos, doing funny bits, going to cool locations. They know their audience way better than you do, we do, way better than the brand does. So I think it's important to, you know, you don't want to overdo it. You want to have just a few key points that you want them to say. So some of the things we'll do is like, hey, mention the product name as many times as possible, or mention it, you know, 3 to 5 times. Make sure you include it in the caption. You just kind of want to put those guardrails around it, and you don't want to really push it too much. So the creator is usually the one that's on track for doing it. And then there's the process of going back to the brand, saying, is this something that you like? Is this something that you guys are interested in? And typically the creators kind of hit the nail on the head. So you do have to have a lot of trust in their content creating abilities. I have made scripts before, especially when we want to have like a very specific message that we want to get across. And that's been a good experience because they're writing their own scripts typically. They're, you know, the ones that are really doing this full time, they're treating it like it's mini production. And so you can do that as well, especially if it's important to you to have that tight hold, a little bit more of a tighter hold on what the message you want to say. But as a whole, I would say let the creators create, and you're going to have a lot more success.
Okay, and just one more question. I'm sorry to take up too much time. It sounds like this is because you've got the ability to follow up. It sounds like this is something that is kind of measurable, maybe much more measurable than just kind of like broadcast advertising. Is that true?
Attribution is difficult. So it depends on the platform that you're on. And so the attribution is definitely not one-to-one and is a little bit more similar to what, you know, a traditional broadcast would look like. So I think it's important to spread some of the posts out. You know, sometimes stacking posts on top of each other can bring challenges to say, oh, which one really did well, right? We had 3 videos go out from 3 different creators and we just saw this big spike in sales. Which one did it come to? Now there are attribution links you're going to be able to do. So those are really great on YouTube. And people are going to be able to attribute there, and then also link in bios. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Bill, but it's basically like a mini website that a creator can have where they're selling their services, their courses, wanting you to follow their other social accounts. But if you can get some real estate in that link in bio, that's going to really help attribution as well. And then you're going to be able to look at it on your Google Analytics. And speaking of Google Analytics, organic search is a really important thing to be interested in here. And I think similar to broadcast and other top of funnel strategies is what was the increase in your organic search around your product once these influencer marketing campaigns go out.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions.
I got one more about back to a question around Pinterest. Like I've never I have not known of a ton of people doing a ton of marketing on Pinterest. What has that looked like for you, and how has that experience worked as far as you said it was fertile ground, maybe because no one thinks about it. How have you gone about doing that?
So there's just less competition on Pinterest. You know, every brand is on Facebook and you're kind of packed into it in different ways. And so one of the great things is that you're going to be able to leverage some of the content that creators create for you and put that on Pinterest as well. And that's going to really help stand out. You know, there's a lot of static images on there. So you're going to be able to leverage some of the content that you have and put it on Pinterest as well. Also, it's not as much of an advanced platform, I guess you could say. So you're getting a lot more free impressions, you know, free views and stuff. Also, as a whole, Pinterest is great for content because it's just a board of different images and different pictures. And if you can a lot more of the promoted content is kind of hidden in someone's Pinterest feed compared to a Facebook page or an Instagram page where it might stand out a little bit more. So I think that there's a lot there. I think it's a growing platform, and I have only really run beta tests on Pinterest. I'm still trying to work with a company and run some larger campaigns there. But that's really more of the way that I like looking at it, is that, you know, there's a lot of fertile ground there and a lot of things that can be done.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Before we wrap up, we wanted to keep it to no more than 45 minutes, but does anybody have any more questions or thoughts, or anybody plan on starting an influencer marketing campaign in the next couple weeks?
I had one more question. It's kind of a bit more general one. You gave us a lot of good do's for influencer marketing, Dan, but the only don't that you really gave us was don't be a jerk. Do you have any other of your top, like, what not to do when you're running one of these campaigns or trying to outreach anything?
I would say don't leave creators hanging. So, you know, you're gonna, let's just do an example, send out content to, you know, send out an email to 100 people, 30 of them get back, and you decide to work with 10. Those 20 that you forgot about, don't leave them hanging. You still had a call with them. You still create a relationship with them. So make sure that you send them a follow-up email as well, saying, you know, hey, really appreciate our call. Thank you for sending over your information, but we're not going to work with you for this campaign. Also, kind of making it separated in those campaigns is a good way to do it, because, you know, if influencer marketing is a channel that's good for your brand, then you're going to be more interested in possibly reaching out to them and opening up that relationship again to do more things. So don't leave your creators hanging, just like you wouldn't leave your customers hanging.
Perfect. Thanks.
Hey, Dan, I have a question for you. It's Justin here.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, how's it going? What do you think about in terms of, like, when you're sourcing influencers? There's like influencer marketplaces that are cropping up, creator marketplaces, basically people that are saying, hey, we'll bring in one way or another the influencers to one place, and you can pick and choose using our online tools. It sounds like you advocate for kind of a bottom-up approach to sourcing the influencer creator. What do you think in terms of, like, the trade-offs are between using some aggregator or something like that? Like, do you get a different quality of influencer on there, or is it just a different feel? Just want to see if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, great question, Justin. Thanks for joining. I think it depends on what you really need. So what step of the process is important for you? And so that's why I encourage everyone to do it by hand, to go through the process first and then figure out what is it that you had the biggest challenge with. So is it actually finding creators and sourcing them? Well, then you're going to want to work with a database, one of these providers that has, you know, 30 million creators. But sometimes you'll get into it and then you end up being upcharged for fees for analyzing them and actually sending out affiliate codes and those types of things. So I think that is one of the ways that you can kind of get bogged down on it. Also, you know, we talked about the agency that Chase's company worked with. Was a mom agency. They're focused on working with other brands that work with moms. And so I thought that was a great fit for them, because they're going to be able to, they don't have to go through the sourcing as much. It's kind of already been done for them. So that is kind of the way I would look at it. There are so many tools out there, and they can also start to add up. So that's another downside too, is that, you know, they do, like any other good software company, they do a great job of charging you and can kind of lock you into plans that might not be the best use of your time. So like I said, it's really depending on what part of the chain is it that you need the most help with.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate everyone being on today. I loved all the interactions. For the people that I've met before, great to hear from you again. Great to see you again. For the people I haven't met before, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email, or reach out to Adam and we can get a call set up and talk a little bit more about your business. And yeah, I think we're good to go, and hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Dan, give us your email address real quick before we go.
It's just dan@growjuniper.com.
Cool. I appreciate it. And thank you.